Got one burning the little swim bait, guys. Got one on that little FOF micro crank down swim bait. That's some bluegill on bluegill crime right there, guys. That's a bass, I think, on a spy jig. Yep, on that panorama. On that 2-inch, 6-cents panorama and 1/16 ounce spy jig combo. That's our third crappie. Pano spy. It's summertime, guys. I'm gonna start doing more creek sends. I got a brand new creek through this morning. I got 3 rods with some little swim baits, dragonfly, fanny pack full of baits. Let's go get after it. There's one. That's something little on the Dragon Slayer, guys. A little long ear, I think. A little long ear sunfish on the blackout. Yeah, we've got some adversity. We have a large hole in the board and lost my flip-flops. They blew out, so we're doing it this morning. There's one. Little bass. Little bass, guys. First one. And wouldn't you know it, I plan for clear water and I get stuff that has next to 0 visibility. So thankfully I did pack along my trusty flashback minis. And I got a Mega Bass Hasdonk shad on there. But first little one. Yo, I ain't kidding. That leak, she's coming out rapid, so I'm not sure how much longer we've got. I might have to nip this in the bud. This has just been a nightmare, honestly. That's what happens when you come and fish new bodies of water, guys. You always try to expect the unexpected, but I can't account for this many things going wrong. Shoeless, hole in the paddleboard, no visibility in the water, brought too many rods. Definitely makes an interesting trip. Whoa, got one burning the little swim bait, guys. On the FOF micro. I abandoned that creek, guys. It was not looking good. I'm just gonna hit a pond on the way home. Yeah, I pulled the plug on that creek send pretty fast. Just too many things going wrong between the hole in the paddleboard. I was losing pressure quick, and I didn't want to have to beach the board and walk like miles back to the truck. So I just turned around, went all the way back to the launch spot, and got everything and loaded up and started heading back home. And I was like, well, you know what? Let's try to stop at a pond and see if we can catch a few fish on the way home and salvage something. Got one on that little FOF micro crank down swim bait. I've been trying to catch stuff on it for a while. I just can't get the clear water that I need to do it. This might be the pond where I can catch a few on it. It swims really straight and has a nice wiggle to it despite how small it is. That thing is tiny, but it's cool. It's handmade from a guy out of Virginia. FOF micro crank down swim bait, 6-pound fluoro, my Dobbin 701C, and my Art Gravity BFS. This pond is fairly clear, guys, but they put that dye in it, so it keeps the algae down. Not a huge fan of the dye stuff, but I guess without it, this whole thing would just be covered, I imagine. Oh. Got one. Got one, guys. Yeah, that's awesome. It's another bass. He gulped it. Let's go. on that FOF micro. All right, y'all, there's fish number 2 on that little micro crank down swim bait. Not very big, but we're not gonna be picky this morning after the start we had. I had another one follow it all the way to the bank here and miss it the cast before this. I'm not sure if it was that fish or not. There's another one. What is that? All right. Big old bluegill just hit that micro. That's cool. That's a full-grown bluegill for this pond. That's some bluegill on bluegill crime right there, guys. All right, y'all, let's let this guy go. Thanks for playing, man. Those blues kind of had the same color too. He was dark and brown, just like this little bait I'm throwing. Oh, panfish on panfish. Got another bluegill, guys, and I caught him on a sunfish panorama on a spy jig. It's a good looking bluegill there. It's got some bright pretty colors on him, orange and white, blue, green. That fish just ate that. Y'all are used to me throwing the 1/16 ounce spy jig, but I have a sunfish colored 6 cents panorama on there. Got one. That's a bass, I think, on the spy jig. Yep, on that panorama. Heck yeah. Sweet. Man, you can tell that he was just kind of like following it in, really curious before he decided to eat it. These are just some small pond bass, but I wanted to try this bait out and even see if predators would eat it with the minimal action, and they definitely are. Little pond bass on that 2-inch 6 cents panorama and 1/16 ounce spy jig combo. And I think the key to this is the fact that I'm running it on that little prop head, the little spy jig, because if not, you see how thin of a profile that is. I think it would just lay over, but that prop helps that thing swim perfectly upright. And there's just a tiniest little quiver on that tail kick. So if you have some clear, calm water, I feel like it doesn't get much more realistic than that other than live bait. And it could be a good way to help you catch some pressured suspended fish. I'm just catching some pond dinks, but I'm still impressed with how that thing swims and the action on it. I wasn't sure at all. There's one. That one might be a better bass, guys. Is that a crappie? Yeah, that's a crappie. Heck yeah, on the spy jig. Cool. Spy jig panorama combo. We got 3 species on it already. That's a nice crappie, man. For this little pond anyway. I've seen some really small crappie in here. That's a decent one. There's a decent pond crappie on that little 2-inch 6 cents sunfish panorama on that 1/16 ounce spy jig head. Whoa. Another one. What is that? Is that another crappie? God dang. We're into some crappie right here, guys. He's not as big as the last one, but still take him. Crappie. If that thing keeps producing on several trips, guys, we'll dub it the Pana Spy or something. Pano Spy. Got one. Another crappie? Golly, they're killing it. They are killing this little spy jig. They follow it for a while, I can tell, and then they decide to pull the trigger on it. That's our 3rd crappie. On the sunfish spy jig. Got one. So I wanted to try another head other than the spy jig with the panoramas. And first cast on a flashback mini, little bluegill teed off on it. And instead of rigging it vertically to give it a little more of a erratic action, I've got it rigged through the middle of the body. There he is, finally got him. That bass has bit like 2 or 3 times. Got him on the panorama, heck yeah. He missed it a couple times with the bait rigged through the midsection, so I flipped it around and put it tall side, and he got it. If you want to fish very slow and tedious with that panorama on the spy jig, you can do that, and I think that's why those crappie were biting it. If you want to fish a little more aggressive and more horizontally, put it on a flashback mini, catch some little bass, some bluegill. If you've got some clear ponds, guys, give that a shot. Got one, guys. What is that? I think it's another crappie. Man. So apparently, crappie really like these 2-inch panoramas. That's definitely the majority of what we caught. When you rig it vertically and when you put it on the flashback minis, the tail kick is so tight, and that chatterbait blade makes it shimmy so fast. That thing makes that little lifelike plastic really come to life. So this morning wasn't a complete bust, guys. You know, sometimes when you go out and explore some new water, it's just not going to work out like you think it's going to. And for me, it was one problem right after the other. I got the paddleboard in the water and all I can hear is just, there's a big hole in the side of the board, so I'll have to repair that when I get back. But lo and behold, it did float me for the hour and a half that I spent in that creek. I got all the way down about 3/4 of the run that I wanted to take. Only caught 2 little fish, and I honestly didn't see hardly anything worth catching. There were little sunfish and some tiny bass, but that creek did not look good. It was someplace where I had played disc golf in the past, and I had remember seeing some good sized bass in there, but the pools were way deeper at that time, and it's just still not making sense to me why these creeks aren't holding a lot of water when it's raining so hard. But it was shallow and it was fairly murky in places where it was a little bit deeper, so they weren't really interested in the swim baits. So I made the 30 to 45 minute walk all the way back to where I started, and instead of just calling it completely quits today, decided to stop at a pond on the way home and was vindicated some. I think this bait is worth every penny that I spent on it. Those little FOF micros are so cool. Their action is so good, and it's got a fairly good sink rate. So if y'all have some deep, clear water where you live, those things could be absolutely lethal. And just clear water in general, skinny water, creeks with good current, trout would probably crush these things, I'm sure. I'm really impressed with that micro jointed swim bait. On the other hand, I know I did talk pretty highly of just like the realistic nature of these little 2-inch panoramas, guys, but for the price, you get 8 plastics for $10, and they're 2-inch plastics, guys. That's just highway robbery in my opinion. I love 6th Sense, I love their products, but I mean, that's just getting out of hand in terms of price for that and what they are. They are a little more lifelike than, say, the actual little trailers that Z-Man gives you. Their plastic's pretty stiff. This is a pretty soft, lifelike plastic, but with that, you don't really get much durability. But if it really came down to it, to where you had to get a bite somewhere and it was super tough, putting that on a spy jig or a little flashback mini, they will get bit. So I'm gonna keep searching for some cool, small, skinny water spots for this summer, because that's what I love to do in the summertime, is take my paddleboard out to creeks and just kind of wade around. But if y'all enjoyed this one, please leave a like for me. Consider subscribing if you haven't yet, guys. Always talk with me in the comments below. Check out the discount codes and links to gear in the description above. And check out the link to more BFS bass action in the pinned comment below. Check out Bass Brother on Instagram and on Amazon. And check out this company too, guys, Province. They make a lot of cool apparel. And you know, I'm a sucker for the black and white stuff. So if you want to support these guys, PRVNC or Province on Instagram. And I believe they have a website as well where they're selling their gear. It's a local company to Fort Worth. Other than that, y'all take her easy. We'll catch you on the next one. He's not as big as the last one, but still taking. Crappie. If that thing keeps producing on several trips, guys, we'll dub it the Pana Spy or something.